Welcome to the Zacks Roundtable Review, a discussion of current events affecting investors as well as other topics of financial interest, featuring the analysts and editors of Zacks.com. Healthcare is what everyone seems to be talking about this morning on this Monday, the 22nd of March. And so we're going to join in that discussion here with our editor-at-large, Steve Reitmeister, research director Shiraz Mian, and market technician Kevin Matris. And our discussion is going to center on how this impacts the stock market, how this impacts the overall economy. So Steve, why don't I start with you? How do you expect this, or is it too early to tell how this can impact the overall economy?
Obviously there's a lot of estimates coming out of out of the political offices, out of the government offices, and it's hard to say what will truly be the case. But I think, as you can see from the stock market going up a little bit today, there's just a little bit of a okay, now we know what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we can move forward on how this is, what's going to happen. So the market's not rallying because this is the greatest bill that ever got passed. It's just like there's no longer confusion of what will be passed. Okay, because the market doesn't like things that are in question, so now with the clarity coming through what this will be, people can just move forward with their lives and make adjustments.
So you're not expecting, any impact on the overall market for the foreseeable future?
Not for the foreseeable future, but here again, if this can truly over time start to rein in costs on healthcare, well, that's good for everybody. But that's the biggest question mark. Did we just add more people into the status quo, okay, or did we really make a fundamental change in the way healthcare is being delivered and lower the cost of healthcare? And if we can lower the cost of healthcare, yes, that's terrific for the economy. I'm not sure that we did that, though.
Kevin, let's try to dig into some of the winners and losers sector-wise here. Biggest winner, you think, in your opinion, sector-wise in the stock groups?
Well, first off, let me just say that what's happening today in the immediacy is that you see the pharmaceutical companies, the medical device makers, they're actually moving a little bit higher because they are supposed to be getting hit with a lot of big taxes, but those were pushed back by about a year. The interesting thing about who's going to be the winner and loser, though, is it really is unknown. Caterpillar just, I think last week, said that if health care got passed, this was going to add an additional $100 million to their expenses. So nobody really knows what's going to happen. The one thing I will say is, and I've been hearing this argument quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, is a lot of people believe that this is going to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit. And in one sense, I kind of buy into that argument, because one of a small business's biggest problems is trying to figure out if I leave my job to go off on my own, I won't be able to afford health care. If these people are now able to get affordable health care, that allows the person the affordability and the confidence to strike out on their own and still have health care. So in one crazy way, I'm sure Congress wasn't smart enough to think about this, but in one crazy way, this could help small business, and small business is one of the drivers for jobs for the U.S. economy. So that is a very, very interesting point.
Yeah, there was also word out this morning that one of the biggest drags on the labor force is going to be unskilled workers to fill all of the jobs that will become available when the job market opens up. I had heard that argument on the opposite side too. That is interesting.
Maybe that's why the government took over the student loan thing. Smarten everybody up.
Shiraz, if we had to dig into these sectors one by one, pharmaceuticals, the brand name drug makers, do you think they're going to be outperforming here?
I think it's on balance, I would see as a wash. They are now required by law to fill this so-called donut hole in the Medicare Part D. Yes. Gap that was left in the earlier so-called fix a few years back. So that's an additional cost for the big pharma. On the positive side, they have about 30 plus million new users of their drugs. On balance, the pharma group looks to be a little bit happier, and that would make me think that they perceive that they are coming a little bit ahead. But I don't really buy into that. My sense is that the near-term costs would outweigh the long-term benefits, and I wouldn't be surprised if I see some negative estimate revisions, particularly for 2011. Very long-term, though, the absence of any pricing control in the broader legislation, and the addition of these 30+ million consumers is good for the group.
Steve, what about healthcare stocks, the healthcare providers?
Well, you got right. You got the insurance companies, which they're going to perhaps have more people on the rolls. You have the drug makers, the brand name drug makers probably got a little shot in the arm. The generics.
Less to celebrate.
Less to celebrate, but not necessarily devastating. The device makers, there's some pros and cons in there. I call that a wash, or maybe,
That's right.
maybe better. Here again, if there's more people who are going to get medical care, then they gain on that side. The hospitals, well, less people coming who can't pay for it. And so in that regard, probably a positive. So really, as I kind of said in the opening, I kind of felt this was just kind of the status quo system that we have, and adding 30 million people into it, and then just like this backdoor tax on some of these companies to pay back some of the largesse they're getting from the system. I mean,
So then, Kevin, is there any reason to look at stocks in any of these groups that we've mentioned here, pharmaceuticals, healthcare stocks?
They all could be potential winners and losers, but something that Steve just said, it is interesting, the hospitals, because that's why they charge people like $20 for an aspirin, to be able to pay for all the people who don't have the ability of paying for their hospital stays. It's not as if there's going to be 30 million new people all of a sudden flooding the hospitals. They're already going to the hospitals. They just can't pay for it. What I would be worried about, though, and again, it all depends on what kind of decreases you see with Medicare and all that stuff, but a company that is getting an overwhelming portion of their revenue from Medicaid and Medicare, I would be worried about those companies. But I think that pharmaceutical companies, medical device makers, and also hospitals, I think those could be some big potential winners.
So investors should be just kind of casually looking at them right now, you think?
if they were staying away from them because of the question marks about what was going to happen with the bill, they should now say, let me now explore those groups. So I don't think they're going to be like runaway winners, like, oh, everyone's got to grab them. But the thing is, the question marks are now coming off, and I think they should consider some of the stocks in that group. Yeah.
Selectively, yes.
Shiraz, you agree with that?
I would say, yeah, the bigger positive for the group overall is that we have more visibility and clarity. Now this issue is behind everybody. I think on balance, the insurers, it's negative for them. I wouldn't be surprised if in the coming years, more of the smaller ones, we see more of a consolidation play at the bottom of the group. But on balance, I think it's net negative for the insurers.
Okay, we've got to leave it there for time. That is the latest perspective from the roundtable on healthcare reform with regard to investing. With everyone here, I'm Terry Ruffalo.